You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey Blue Jackets fans, happy Tuesday. This is Locked On Blue Jackets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, bringing you all of the news, the stories, the information, the trials, the tribulations, the joys, and the agonies, keyword agonies, of the Columbus Blue Jackets every Monday to Friday, every week. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and whether you're a first-time listener or a regular listener, I appreciate you for stopping on by. So today, honestly, I was going to break down last night's game, but it was bad. So we're going to do that for like 2 minutes, and then we are going to talk about some prospects. Or one prospect in particular. I got Mikael Holm on to talk to me about a top Swedish prospect. So today we're going to be talking about Calle Odelius. The rest of the week is going to be taken up with prospects as well. I've got another chat with Mikael, and I'm sitting down later in the week with Tony Ferrari to talk about a couple more prospects. But we'll talk about the game, I guess. It was better than the last time we played Florida. The Blue Jackets lose 8-4 to the Florida Panthers, which honestly is progress from the 9-2 beatdown we got a couple of weeks ago, but it's still not great. You know, I don't know what happened. I mean, I do know what happened. The team is just not as good as the Panthers. I was talking to a friend about this, and they were like, yeah, it was much better than the last one. At least they looked like they were trying for the entire game this time. So, I mean, there is that, I guess. Goals for the Blue Jackets came from Gus Nyquist, who has, I think 15 points in his last 16 games or something. So, again, he's just sneaking on up there. An assist for Bayreuther, which is nice. I still don't know why we're playing him. I mean, I do. It's because we have no defenseman, but frustrating. Patrick Laine got 2 more goals, so he's got 4 goals in his past 2 games. He's up to 10 on the season. And Mikael Bemstrom scored his second of the season, which is also really good to see. The downside of this is that Mason Marchment somehow had a 6-point game. I don't why. He got the Sam Reinhart got a hat trick. Anton Lundell had 5 points. Goal scorers for the Panthers were Marchment twice, I believe. Yeah, Marchment twice. Sam Reinhart 3 times. Alexander Barkov got a goal. Owen Tippett got a goal, and Mackenzie Weegar got a goal. But mostly, I just keep looking at that Mason Marchment 6-point night and just oof. Shots on goal were a little more even this time. 40-36, as opposed to the 51-28 that was last time. Not a great showing for Elvis, who got pulled after allowing 7 goals on his first. He made it to the end of the second period at least, which is better than last time. 7 goals on 25 shots, 720 save percentage. So again, not great. I thought Korpisalo was fine in relief. He made 14 of 15 saves in the third period, allowed 1 goal, so he continues to make his draft stock rise, I guess. Something else, not great. Obviously, we mentioned Texier out for 4 weeks. Jake Bean also now out for 4 weeks due to a groin strain from last night's game, or not last night's game, but last game against Montreal. And Eric Robinson left this game. Lower body injury, just a nasty hit from Gudas, which I feel like every time I see him play, he's doing something dumb. So that's not great. He was part of that line that I was talking about yesterday, which is full of energy and fun, and his shorthanded goal against Montreal, and then this game happens, and I don't know how long he's out for. It's unconfirmed. He missed the rest of the game. He only played 2 minutes, so not great. Super not happy about that. But it is what it is. I guess Emil Bemstrom will get some more playing time. I'll be interested to see who we call up from Cleveland. I personally would like it to be Liam Foodie or maybe Trey Fix-Wolanski. But that's because I've been banging the Trey Fix-Wolanski drum for a while now, all season basically. I feel like we should just give him some love, give him a chance. We'll see who gets called up. It could be Danforth, it could be Stenland. There are a bunch of options on Cleveland right now. So we'll see how that goes. But honestly, I feel like we this is like the 7th or 8th game this season where I've been like, yeah, we're just gonna forget that and throw it away. And at a certain point, you can't just throw it away. It's like that's just not how it works. So deep sigh at all of this. Like I say, progress from the last time that we played them, but still not great. Going into the break, obviously they don't play again until the 9th, I believe. Their next game is Tuesday the 8th against Washington, so that should be a fun game. I feel like I'm doing a lot of sighing in this episode, but we have a whole week to not pay attention to that. So I figured let's start our draft coverage, our prospect talk. So as I said in the little preamble at the start of the episode, I sat down with Mikael Holm he works with Smart Scouting. He's one of the European-based scouts. Does a lot of work with Swedish prospects. So we are sitting down to talk a little bit about Calle Odelius, who is his highest-ranked Swedish prospect for this upcoming draft. That is what is coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. But first, I've got to tell you about Bet Online, because Bet Online is back. There might be less football being played, but betonline.net has way more odds and info for this playoff season. From scores, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and I appreciate you. So, despite the Blue Jackets having a pretty hot start to the season, they have been trending downhill basically since Game 10. And it's looking more and more likely that both of our first-round picks are probably going to be top 10. So I thought it's February, let's start looking at the draft. Let's start looking at prospects. And so I've got Mikael Holm here to talk to me about a couple of European prospects. So thanks for coming to talk to me about teenagers, because I know nothing.
Well, thanks for having me. I know some, so hopefully I can help out a little bit.
Yeah, so let's start off with a Swedish prospect who is not a name I had heard a lot before, but as I understand it, he's pretty high on your Swedish draft board. So let's talk about Calle Odelius.
Yeah, Calle is a defenseman playing for Djurgarden who have a lot of talent this draft. They have 4 players that could all go in the first round. Calle is one of them, and he's a teammate with Noah Östlund, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and Liam Ögren as well. and all three of them could go in or four of them could go in the first round. Odelius and Östlund were on Bob's list. They were ranked a bit lower, but I've heard of a few teams that are higher on both of them than what that list showed. But Odelius is a defenseman. He's the only defenseman out of the four. He's a offensive defenseman, but he's good both ways. Like he's not just a purely offensive guy. He's very very skilled defensively as well. He keeps a good gap control, controls the players when they're coming towards him in transition. He's aggressive when he needs to be. He's not a real hitter or like a physical guy, but I think the easiest way to describe him is a little bit more of a Zach Werenski type of guy for the Blue Jackets fans. He's very skilled skater. He moves really well all four ways, so he can like skate laterally and backwards and forwards really, really well. He's not the fastest kind of guy right now, but I see room for him to grow, and if he can grow those steps that I want to see him grow, then I think he could be one of the best, or if not the best, defenseman coming out of this draft. So there's some potential value with him.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, was who is his kind of, does he have like an NHL comparable? It's really interesting that you say Zach Werenski, because obviously we have the original Zach Werenski, and then a lot of people I've talked to have Corson Ceulemans, who we drafted in the first round this year as a kind of a Zach Werenski-esque player. And we also have Dean Kukan, who I have also kind of seen as a Zach Werenski-esque player. So it does make me happy to think that we might just end up with an entire defense corps of Rovers, because I love it when defensemen are offensive.
I would say he's closest to Zach. I don't know if I would compare him to Zach Werenski in an NHL type of, if you're looking at a larger picture. But for Columbus fans, I think Werenski is a kind of a good person to make a comparison to, because he's more skilled offensively than defensively, but he's not bad defensively at all. And I don't think Zach Werenski is bad defensively at all, even though he's a more offensive type of guy.
Yeah, for sure. Do you see him as like a top line guy then, or is that where you're kind of projecting him to be a one or two defenseman on a team?
I think he could reach a 2. I think this draft is kind of poor for a while, and that's something we can discuss maybe a little bit further down. But I think this top 10 is very hard to put down for me, because I have like 7 guys I like in the top 10, and then there's a bunch of guys that I could pick between 12 and 29, basically. So it's a hard time for me to put down a top 10 in this draft, and I think Calle is a guy I want to bet on, because I think his upside is huge, but I don't think he ever will be a number 1 defenseman. I think that's too hard for him, but I think he could definitely be a number 2. And if not that, he could lead his own, like he could be a 3 and be a first power play line quarterback, basically. So I think his upside is very, very high, but I don't think it's a number 1 type of defenseman. Those you rarely find. Unless you pick first or second overall, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So do you see him going in the top 10, top 15? Like where would you put him kind of in? Because obviously he's pretty high in terms of Swedish prospect, but where would you kind of put him in regards to everyone else? Because like just looking at the different rankings, he's kind of anywhere from 10th to 51 on the list of rankings that I've kind of looked at. Yeah,
I'm not sure he's a divisive prospect, because I think all people like him, but they don't know where to place him, really. I think I have him in the 10 to 15 range, and that's because I believe how good he can be. But I would pick him in the 10 to 15 range if I had the chance. But I think you could also just wait and take him. He might even be there in the early second round. So Columbus still has their second round pick, I assume.
I believe so.
So they could basically take two top 10 players and then wait for Calle until the second round and take him there. And have a pretty stacked draft. But
yeah, with having,
I think he might shoot up some boards during the spring, the second half of the season.
I was going to say, obviously, it's still pretty early in the season to be thinking about like this guy's. I think the first overall is kind of pretty pretty locked in at this point. I think Shane Wright's obviously going first on no matter who wins the draft lottery, but I feel like it's still kind of up in the air for basically every other position in the draft.
In a minute, I've got the end of my conversation about Calle Odelius with Mikael Holm, but first I want to tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning, wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using rockauto.com. They are a family business. They've been serving DIYers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. Why would you choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same part from a chain store or car dealership when rockauto.com has everything you could need? They've got brake parts, they've got tail lamps, they've got motor oil, even things like new carpet. If you could put it on or in your car or truck, rockauto.com probably sells it. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and make sure you write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com.
Let's talk a little bit more about kind of the season that he's having, because it seems like he's having a pretty good one. Obviously, Djurgarden is a team that's got a lot of good young players, but he's the only defenseman. Is he, do you think he's a real difference maker on the team? Is he someone that is, going to take a step forward in the next half of the season, or even, the season after that? Because I assume that he probably won't make the jump to the NHL immediately after being drafted.
No, I don't believe he will make the NHL immediately unless he has an insane summer. And we've seen those type of summers from players before, but I think he'll continue to play a very important role as the number one defenseman on the Djurgården J20 team. And that J20 team is the best team right now in Sweden among the junior teams, and they lead the series, they lead the league, and they continue to just impress. And his play during the first half was a little bit better than he's played the last couple of weeks or the last month, maybe. But I think his overall play will come back. You always go up through ups and downs as a hockey player during the season, and I think he'll have a very strong second half of the season. I think he'll shine at the under 18s as well in May, I think it is, in Germany. And I think he'll have a very strong tournament there, and that's where I think there are a lot of discussion around him will start to start to go up. There's just going to be more discussion around Odelius and his skills, and I think that's when he's going to move up to at least the first round. I think some team might take him top 20 as well.
I feel like Swedish prospects always seem to go lower than they should, if that makes sense. I feel like I don't know if that's confirmation bias. Obviously, Eklund dropping all the way to 7th, and then Wallstedt dropping to 20th. Ish, I think he was. So it wouldn't surprise me to see if Odelius kind of drops the rankings a little bit. And I don't know if that is because of lack of being able to scout in Europe because of COVID or what. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of where Odelius ends up, because we talked about recording yesterday, I think, and I looked him up and I found a couple of clips of his play, and yeah, he looks like he's kind of in that stage of his development where he looks a little bit like a baby giraffe, where he's still kind of growing into himself. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how he develops as he kind of gets a little bit older and finishes kind of growing into his limbs, basically.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's some polishing to do with him, of course, as there are a lot of those prospects when they're 17 years old. They're not fully grown and they have a lot of weight to put on still. And so, yeah, there's definitely work needs to be done with him. I just think his raw potential with his skating and with his puck skills and his passing skills are very interesting, and that's where you got to make the assessment as a scout where you want to take a guy, because sometimes you just look at a guy and see a very finished product, and that's very interesting because they're very good and they can step up into the NHL immediately, but will they be as good as these unfinished guys that are having a huge potential, which you can develop into a very good player? So that's the big question for us scouts to figure out, like where do we draw the line between upside and stability, basically.
Yeah, I always think it's tough to look between, okay, do you want this prospect who is basically as advertised, or do you take a risk on someone who is a little bit less developed but could have a higher ceiling? And I think I would probably always go with the potential higher ceiling, high risk, high reward is kind of how I look at it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on Odelius if he does indeed go in the kind of the 10 to 15 range. I don't know if the Blue Jackets will pick there. It depends on how the second half of their season goes. But we have like the ideal for Columbus would be to win the draft lottery and then for Chicago to pick third, because we have Chicago's first round pick, which is 1 and 2 protected. So we could ostensibly have the first and third overall picks in the draft. But again, the Blue Jackets tend to do this thing where the last kind of 2 months of a season, they go on a hot streak and ruin their draft position for themselves. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do that and we do end up picking in this kind of 10 to 15 range. And it would be interesting to see if they end up picking up Odelius there. Jarmo Kekalainen loves to draft Europeans. So
yeah, that was the reason Tortorella kept his job for so long, right? Just to, like, the hot streak at the end of the season, making it into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then they just didn't happen last season. So
yeah,
and he wasn't shown the door. I think it was a mutual leaving. But
yeah,
I don't know. I've talked so much about John Tortorella over the past 6 months, way more than I ever did when he was actually part of the team. So.
And that's all I've got for you today. Like I say, tomorrow we will be talking about a different prospect with Mikael Holm. We're going to be talking about Juraj Slavkovsky, who is a big Slovakian winger, and he's a really exciting prospect. So I'm excited to get into that with Mikael. So that is what's coming up tomorrow on Locked On Blue Jackets. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOB FORSTER. You can find this podcast at LO_Blue Jackets and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.